So today I want to talk about something that might be a little bit challenging to hear. The way society programmed you, your family, your neighbors, your school teachers, fucked you up. They taught you to believe in values, systems of thinking, ways about going about your life that may be totally disconnected from your internal truth. And while I am happy to be an American living in the 21st century, it's a kind of fucked up place to be. People are unhappy, they're lonely, they're suicidal, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're angry, and the world as we are told to experience it isn't giving us answers to these problems. So I say, fuck societal expectations and find a way of living that feels right for you. I'm in this game. So if we haven't met before, my name is Kay. I'm an ecstatic spiritual life coach, author of the book Journey to the Ecstatic Self, and the upcoming queer fantasy novel, I Dreamt of Flight. If you've been following my social media over the last couple of weeks, you'll notice that I've been experimenting with doing things that are, well, what society would say are not quite proper. I have been creating and posting artistic nude photography. I've also been sharing some more embodied, erotic, a little bit explicit depictions of being with and in and by myself. And in the back of my head, I keep hearing the refrain of good boys don't do that, decent people don't do this, other people might do that, but not you. And it has been a moment for me to pause, reflect, and examine, am I living in a way that's integrated with my internal guidance system, with my values, with my beliefs, and is this old programming talking? Because let's be honest, in the modern world, we live in a culture that's very disconnected from each other, from ourselves, from the natural world, from a beautiful work-life balance. We are obsessed with our phones, with our jobs, with appearing younger and having better partners and making more money, having the coolest new stuff, the best car, the best wardrobe. We live in an unconsciously consumerist society that just takes. Always more, always newer, always better. When I don't like this anymore, I throw it out, get rid of it, and get something new. And we don't just do this with our clothes because they go out of season. We do it with the people in our life. Oh, so-and-so is so challenging. I would rather not have a relationship with them than have to work through this difficulty. Well, me and my partner run its course. You know, it's time for us to separate and move on, and there's other fish in the ocean. I've been at this job for a year. That's plenty long enough tenure. It calls to mind to me the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is rejoined together using gold in the broken lines, and it is considered more valuable, more beautiful than before it had broken. Similarly, a teapot is considered more valuable the older it is, the more tea it has served, rather than being newer and younger and fresher. If we were to live by the values that contemporary society gives us, we should always be upgrading our home, our wardrobe, our partners, and just toss it aside and get something new and better. Not only is this incredibly wasteful of the Earth's precious resources, but what does that say about our relationship with ourselves? If everything is replaceable, if everything is disposable, then how can we be eternal? How can we be irreplaceable? How can we be vast, expansive, divine? It's important we examine the values society has given us and say, are these the values I really want to have? Is this the way I really want to be living? It's something that I find myself doing time and again in my life. In 2016, I finally got the opportunity to move to Los Angeles. I got cast in a play, got an agent, got a manager, had my reel together, was SAG eligible, and thought it was the culmination of everything I ever wanted. But as I stayed there and sat in my experience and examined how I felt, I started to realize that my values had shifted, that the things that had begun to matter more to me weren't about fame, success, notoriety. It was about community, belonging, family, love with somebody who I deeply care about, being valued for who I am rather than what I can earn. And I ended up leaving the entertainment industry because I realized it wasn't in line with what I actually wanted. But in order to see that, I had to let go of all the programming I had got from my mother, who thought I needed to be a famous actor, from society, who told me this is what success in life means, from my peers in the industry who are equally pursuing these goals. I had to reevaluate and see what actually mattered to me. And I have done this numerous times since, whether it's reconfiguring our relationship and what does it mean to be in a partnership and what does it mean to be devoted to each other and connected. I lost a dear friend in my life because they could no longer hold the way that me and my partner were negotiating our relationship. They thought it sinful, wicked, bad, wrong. And in the previous few weeks, I've been exploring this more sensual, embodied way of creating in the world with this photography. And all of these stories of how doing this is unacceptable or naughty or wrong or good men don't do things like this have been coming up. But if I were to live my life in the way society told me I should, I wouldn't be here doing this channel talking to people like you. I wouldn't be married to a man. I wouldn't have moved across the country a bunch of times. I wouldn't be living in the country as opposed to the city. I certainly wouldn't be focusing my career on sex and sexuality and embodiment and spirituality and queerness and bringing all of that together, because society doesn't value those things. I have to go and reprogram myself to say, this matters to me. This feels right to me. This feels good to me. And at the end of the day, the only person who's responsible for my life is myself. And how I live it is my choice. No one else can make me happy. Only I can do that. No one else is accountable for my actions. Only me. And if at the end of my life I turn around and feel dissatisfied, I can't blame anyone else. They weren't making the choices for me. It might have seemed that way at the time, but I get to choose in which way I feel integrated, in which way I feel like I'm aligned with my purpose, my mission, my values, my joy. And sometimes that means doing things that society as a whole doesn't understand. I've learned to love psychedelics, plant medicine. I find that a really beautiful part of my spiritual journey, but there's still a huge contingent in the United States who view it as drugs or wrong or something broken people do. You know, I love my queerness and I love sharing my body and being sensual, and expressing touch with people with whom I love, which for quote-unquote normal society is maybe not the norm. But fuck that. What brings you joy? What makes you feel alive? What makes you feel radically and enthusiastically yourself so that when you look back 10 years from now, 15 years from now, you might say, oh, maybe I didn't make all the right choices, but at least I lived. At least I tried. At the end of life, it's better to have memories than dreams. Or as another famous phrase says, we most often regret the things we didn't do rather than the things we did. So what does this mean for you? Where have you compromised? Where have you made choices to satisfy someone else? Your mother, your priest, your third grade science teacher, your partner? Where could you do a better job of living in an intrinsically aligned way? Doing things that make you feel good rather than garner society or other people's approval. Because when we live for intrinsic values, we're happier, we're more well adjusted. When we live for extrinsic appreciation, the appreciation of other people, that's when our mental health suffers. So what are some things that you can do that, well, technically not societally appropriate, bring you tremendous joy? I'm Kay, this is Ecstatic Self. Thank you for your time.